Welcome, 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 everyone, to Hoops Zooted, the podcast that combines your two favorite things, weed and basketball. I am Evan Moore. I'm a writer for the Late Night Lake Show, and I've been a Lakers fan for 43 years and counting. So I love basketball and I love cannabis. So I created this podcast to marry my two loves. Now, a lot of podcasts talk about basketball and weed, but not too many of them talk about basketball while on weed. Now, what makes this podcast different is that not only will we be smoking, we'll also be letting you know what strains we are smoking and what we'll be smoking them out of. So, as well as occasionally doing edibles and ingesting cannabis in other ways beforehand. Now, the point of this is not to romanticize getting high, but to share with you what is a lifestyle for a lot of us. Now, at any given moment, all over the world, people are smoking weed and talking about basketball. I know I'm not the only one. So anyway, today I will be smoking some wedding punch, and I'm just going to be smoking out of my traditional little glass pipe. Had this for a long time, probably about 15 years or so. But just, I'm just going to go a little comfortable, little comfort zone with me today here, just, and while I take a few hits, let me introduce to you my co-host, the first of my two co-hosts here, Colin, and we'll let him introduce himself and tell you what he's smoking here as well.
Thanks, Evan. Hey, guys. Happy to be here. My name's Colin, diehard Lakers fan, hardcore stoner. I actually just took a dab, which for those of you who don't know is it's for us really hardcore stoners, and it's when you basically smoke concentrated cannabis out of a bubbler. So I was smoking some limoncello batter. Looks like this. Not the prettiest thing, but definitely
Nice.
packs the punch and
Yeah.
gets feeling zooted. So happy to be here.
Oh, and what's little side question on that? What's the first? Do you know the percentage of THC on that dab?
Oh, it's in the high 80s, it's like high 80s, low 90s. So yeah, whereas traditional flowers anywhere in the 20-30%.
Exactly.
Concentrated cannabis is a much higher THC percentage. So yeah, that's and you only need one hit. So
that's a strong one, kids.
Yeah, exactly. It's a one punch to the face. So I'm ready for this podcast.
Right on, man. I'm just happy to be here. This podcast has been a long time in the making, so this is awesome to be here finally. Here talking some basketball, so
for sure.
Anyway,
don't
know.
Go ahead.
Go right ahead.
I met Evan about a year ago, and we actually went to NBA Summer League, or met up at NBA Summer League in Las Vegas. So from then till now, it's awesome to be doing this.
Yeah, this is amazing. So anyway, first thing I want to get into is I want to talk a little bit about USA basketball and Austin Reeves, of course, and a little bit about Steve Kerr too. It's been so great to see, first of all, Austin's elevation as a player. He has gotten so much more efficient, and I feel like we've got a chance of seeing possibly a 50-40-90 season from him this year. And if he does that, oh my God, Laker fans are not going to let people live with. We are just going to torment people with him, for decades if he can give us a 50-40-90. So I am just stoked about that. Now, I think, a lot of us may be getting a little, carried away with Austin, but we also have to appreciate an undrafted guy who's overachieved like this. It's just, it's an incredible hoop stream story, and it's been so fun to watch, and just I'm so glad he's on our team. But so anyway, anyway, to a little bit of the bad though. Steve Kerr and this damn starting lineup, man. I I've been just pulling my hair out watching a lot of these games because like every time we get off to these bad starts and then Austin comes in off the bench and like, I don't want to like be the guy who's like, it's all about Austin, but like it sure seems to be like, his energy changes this team and like, why he's not starting or like why we aren't like at least like kind of mixing up and changing that starting lineup a little bit more. Like, and I understand Brandon Ingram got, sick and wasn't there for this last game, but like just so many frustrating things. And I feel like Steve Kerr was so committed to small ball and, didn't want to play, Kessler at all. And then the only other big that he had. And like, it really showed, in the one get lost that we had, before the Germany game too. And like, so yeah, I'm just, really disappointed in that. But also, like, I'm really disappointed mostly in what Steve Kerr said. Because, he talked about the rest of the world catching up to us. And, that has been true for quite some time. So, like, I feel like him saying that is just like such a cop-out response. And it just really bothered me. Just like, just own up to the fact that it's not so much that the world is catching up to us, that they're beating our C team right now, but our C team should still be beating them if we were playing them better and like actually matching up with them better. So that's been the frustrating thing for me. Like I've enjoyed it, but like, I also feel like, maybe small ball is over with like what Steve Kerr is doing. Like, like I feel like the league is shifting and like, you just see like little shifts of where, maybe this like just chucking threes all the time isn't going to be, where the game is, just curious what you think about a lot of that.
Yeah. So first of all, yeah, that was great insight. I got to be fully transparent. These USA basketball games have been. I live on the West Coast in Southern California, so these USA basketball games have been starting at either 1:30 a.m. my time or 5:30 a.m. my time. So I will admit I haven't been as dialed in as Evan has for these games. And I've been recording them even, but then by the time I wake up, I've already seen everything on Twitter, and I typically, don't have time to go back and watch the recording. But yeah, so quick thoughts, Austin Reeves, can't agree more with what Evan said. His ascension from being undrafted to literally, I'm a sneakerhead, and I bought a pair of his shoes this morning that he just dropped his actually his Team USA Stars and Stripes shoes. So I was bought a pair of those this morning, the AR ones. But yeah, very excited about him, and to get him on the contract that we got him on this summer. I think it was 4 years, 54 million. Just incredible. And even to see how much better he looked on Team USA than even when he played when we last saw him with the Lakers. You can see that he's even gotten better since then. So his growth rate is just accelerating, and everyone that plays with him seems to love him. He's making friends with everyone on Team USA. Even Steve Kerr was one of the first people to say he's basically a Swiss Army knife. I think he called him a connector piece. You can basically put him in any lineup, and he's kind of a connector piece. So have loved to see that. But yeah, I was definitely disappointed by some of the lineups. Quick thoughts. Jalen Brunson, I was super high on him all NBA season. Loved what he did with that Knicks team. But he looked kind of like a shell of himself out there. And then the guy who really looked like a shell of himself to me was Jaren Jackson Jr., who was the defensive player of the year. And, I think he multiple games had like 3 points and 2 rebounds. So, and like was not a force on the defensive side, which we needed him to be because he was playing center most of the time. And to Evan's point, when he wasn't being a force, they didn't give Walker Kessler, who was the only other center on the team, even a try. So definitely frustrating that we lost, especially since we beat that same Germany team in an exhibition game like 4 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. So definitely frustrating, and that obviously that it came at the hands of Steve Kerr, who I do actually respect Steve Kerr, and I love Steve Kerr, but just Don't
Yeah, me
agree with some of
too.
the decisions he made, and it's frustrating, obviously, with some of the back and forth the Lakers fans have been having with the Warriors fans. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think we're it leads us nicely into this season though with Austin playing well. So I'm excited.
Yeah, that's great. And then, like, you know, the other thing Laker related that I'd really like to talk about today, too, is the signing of Christian Wood. You know, like, I
Finally,
am, yeah, finally, like, exactly. Like, we thought we were going to get hear something on August 5th. Turned out it was September 5th.
crazy, crazy.
Yeah. And, like, man, like, I called this back in July, like, when like things like started to kind of look like, everybody was only offering him a minimum. I, like, just kind of like rubbing my hands, like, oh, like, makes us look a little bit better, like, like, hey, like, everybody else is only offering the minimum, but you can at least come here and, possibly, go for a championship. And so, like, like, I had called it back then, like, even made a bet with, you Tony from PGM there on Twitter about, whether or not Christian Wood would sign with us. So, like, I guess I need to talk with Tony about that too, because he needs to put up a Dennis Schroeder profile pic now.
Time to pay up.
But so anyway, yeah, like, I'm really stoked to have him. And, yes, there are some flaws with his game. A lot of people who do complain about his defense, they're well warranted. But, I think what he offers us offensively, and for me, the biggest word, the key word to this is versatility. Like, he and his ability to shoot the three, and you put him out on the floor with AD, and I mean, and especially if AD starts being able to hit that three, say, like, a respectable rating at about 35%, that becomes a deadly, deadly lineup. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, so, like, I am stoked. Like, there are so many possibilities with this team. Obviously, it's going to take some time for, the new guys to kind of figure out their roles. But, like, hopefully everybody's ready to buy in, you know, because of, championship things. But the other thing I've noticed is that, like, Christian Wood joined us because, he cited Darvin Ham as one of the biggest reasons. So, like, I think we have kind of like that, like, nobody's talking about, like, there's all these people complaining about Darvin Ham, but, like, Darvin Ham really, I think, as a players coach, can really become a draw for a lot of players. Like, a lot of players are going to want to play for him, and especially if he starts winning and he wins a championship, that draw becomes bigger. And so, like, I'm kind of excited, low key, about his ability to kind of like be a, kind of free agent lure for us in the future. So, like, that kind of, like, like, pricked my ears up and made me excited a little bit too. So yeah, I'm so happy to have Christian Wood. And, like, I mean, I think it just adds, like, another dimension of versatility to this team. And, like, if it works out, like, we can match up so well to almost everybody. We can play small ball, we can play big, we can do it all. And, like, I'm stoked for this season.
yeah. I mean, you said it actually. Like you said, you've been saying it since July. When we were at summer league together, you said, I think he's just gonna wait it out, and we're gonna, wait. I think you said until August. It ended up being September, but you said he's gonna try and wait out to see if he can get a bigger contract, and if not, I think his best option on a vet min is the Lakers, and I think we'll see that, which is exactly what happens. So, yeah, definitely shout out to Evan for that, but. Yeah, I'm so happy we got him. I a lot of people were complaining like, oh, he's gonna start, which means LeBron's gonna play the three and all this crazy stuff. I was like, no, I don't think we're gonna start veteran minimum Christian Wood over $17 million Rui, or even maybe Jared Vanderbilt, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm just so excited. He averaged, I think 16 and 7 with the Mavericks last year, and then the year before that, he averaged a double double. I think like 18 and 10 or 18 and 11. So, you know, to have that as your backup center, and then also have Jackson Hayes, who I think is going to be a serviceable backup as well. And then you also have Jared Vanderbilt and Rui, who are kind of like those power forwardish. You just have a ton of size and versatility, like Evan said. And yeah, there's gonna, I don't think Christian Wood's gonna start, but I do think we will see lineups where him and AD are on the floor together, like Evan was saying. So Christian Wood, as we know, can definitely hit the three. I think there was a game against the Lakers last year where he hit like 5 threes. And then, if like Evan said, if Anthony Davis can please find that 3-point shot, even like 32%. I think he's been in like the high 20s recently. So 35%, yeah, would be an absolute dream. But that would be deadly as well. And even if he can't find the 3-point shot, just having two bigs that size and having Christian Wood as a power forward, I think, you're just going to have a lot of versatility, and I'm very excited. And I will say, I just bought the new NBA 2K24. It came out, I think, for Xbox One yesterday. And last night, this is hilarious. I started my season with the Lakers. Obviously, they've got Christian Wood on their roster now. He's like a 79 overall. The only 2 changes I made, I turned injuries off, which I always do. And I upgraded Max Christie from a 70 overall to a 75 overall. Everything else I kept the exact same. Simmed to the All-Star break, or played the first 2 games and then simmed to the All-Star break. The record that the Lakers had was 42 and 7 at the All-Star break. So I instantly started texting some of my friends that, joking that even Ronnie 2K knows that the Lakers are going to be good this year. So, yeah, and obviously I turned injuries off, and that kind of leads me to my next point, which is I think injuries are going to be one of the biggest things for the Lakers this year. But yeah, if we can stay healthy with this depth, I've been saying all offseason I could see the Lakers winning 60 games this year, which I'm super excited about. I think I had them winning 40 games last season, so going into last season. So, yeah, man, I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. And I even put my money where my mouth is this year. We were in Vegas at Summer League, I placed a futures bet on them to win the title. So, and hopefully they win the title, that pays for me to go back to Summer League. So,
and that was before we got Christian Wood. So you got probably better odds on that than current odds.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
That was nicely played.
So yeah, I'm just I'm so excited. Here we are just about a month away. So
yep.
Well, anyway, since we are, kind of still here in the off season, and we're both football fans, we want to talk a little bit about football here. I am excited for football season. And I have to say, for the first time in a long time, and for an interesting reason, I was a Cowboy fan for 40 plus years until last season. I finally gave up on Jerry Jones. It was the last straw for me, finally seeing him in that segregationist picture. And for years, he had been torturing me. I hated the man when he took over the team to begin with, because he fired Tom Landry. But then I forgave him, because he hired Jimmy Jones and, won Super Bowls with Jimmy Jones. But then he fired Jimmy Jones, and things turned for me when him and Barry Switzer in 95, when they got up on the podium, just felt so kind of smarmy and gross to me. And but for the longest time, I just told myself, no, it's all about the players. Fuck to hell with them. But every time they would get good and have a chance for the Super Bowl, I would still think in the back of my head, man, like I want them to win, but I don't want to see Jerry on the podium again. So like I've had this like animosity and this just distaste for Jerry for 28 years, since the last time that he won. And like watching him be a general manager has just been painful and terrible. So like it was the last straw for me. And like so I've given that up, and like I'm now jumping on the Ravens bandwagon. So like I'm a newly minted Ravens fan, and like I'm excited, and like you know and like it's just kind of fun. Like I feel like I'm like to like Bomani Jones has I think one of the greatest like kind of turns of phrase for this, of like talking about how he stopped being an Atlantic Falcons fan. Like he got off that narcotic. And I just like, I feel like that encapsulates it so perfectly. And like
You're
I
finally
finally
clean. You're
got off
finally clean.
that exactly. I'm finally clean of that Cowboys narcotic.
Hey man, congrats. You've turned a new leaf.
Thank you, man. So like, yeah, it's been fun, and like, yeah, I'm really stoked, and like, everybody talks every year about like, one or two like, like surprise teams, and like, everybody's like darling is obviously the Lions, but like a team that I think is going to surprise a lot of people this year is the Commanders. Now, I don't think they're going to like, they're not going to win much of anything. They're not going to win that division even, but they're going to be a spoiler, and they're probably going to, I think, maybe even win 7 to 8 games. And, I think just getting rid of the curse of Daniel Snyder, like, I think it's going to be huge for that team. Like, and there's still a lot of talent on that team. And I think that young quarterback, Howell, is better than a lot of people. So, they're not going to be world beaters. They're not going to be like, but they're going to like piss in a lot of people's Cheerios.
Oh, for sure. And that, I mean, their defense has always been elite. I think even last year they won like 7 games. So, yeah, I'm definitely high on the Commanders as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're a Packers fan. What are you
Yeah,
like?
so I guess sorry, I should have given a quick background about my NFL fandom. So yeah, I've been a Packers fan for 25 plus years. In the early 90s when I was a little boy, my dad went to a business conference at Lambeau Field and brought me back a cheesehead. I think I was about 3 years old. That was in like the early 90s, and I wore that thing literally every day for about 4 or 5 years. And then, yeah, the Packers won their Super Bowl in '97 with Brett Favre. And, then after that, I was just pretty much a diehard. So, huge Packers fan, very excited for this upcoming season. Obviously, we're turning a new leaf with Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets. We got Jordan Love coming in. First of all, love Aaron Rodgers, one of my favorite players of all time, one of the best throwers of the football you'll probably ever see, just in terms of some of the throws he can make with his arm angles and twerking his body and no-look passes and all that stuff. So, love Aaron Rodgers, thankful for what he did for the Packers, but it was time for him to move on. I was ready for him to move on, and I'm super excited about Jordan Love. And yeah, everything I've seen, I've been like pretty locked into training camp reports and practice and preseason highlights and preseason games. And Love had like one of the best preseasons of any quarterback, which doesn't mean a whole lot because it's preseason, but it's better than having a bad preseason. So, and it's just the first time. I was saying this in a Packers space last night. It's the first time in a long time where the Packers have had a team where everyone's the same age, like similar age. We're a very young team. And so it's not like previously we kind of had like the two, almost like what the Lakers have, which are like or the Warriors had, which is the 2 timeline deal, where like we had Aaron Rodgers and Mercedes Lewis and Randall Cobb and all these old guys. And then we had like the young rookies like Jair Alexander and Jordan Love. So now everyone's young. They're all hanging out, playing video games together, doing stuff together in the off season, working out early. which wasn't happening with Aaron Rodgers. So I'm excited. We got a lot of young receivers. There's this kid Jaden Reed who was our second round pick. Actually, the pick that we got in the Rodgers trade from the Jets. This receiver out of Michigan State. He's going to be great. We got Christian Watson out week 1, which I'm bummed about, but I think that'll give Jaden Reed an opportunity to step up. I'm also high on Romeo Dobbs, who will be stepping up. And then also watch out for our tight end who we picked up in the second round, this kid Luke Musgrave, who, for those of you that play fantasy, I think he's definitely a fantasy sleeper this year. So excited about the Packers, and gotta say I'm high on your Ravens too, and excited that you picked that team as your new team, because I've always loved Lamar and I've loved Jim Harbaugh. And I think Zay Flowers is going to be huge for them. I think Odell is going to be huge for them. I think having a healthy Rashad Bateman and all those running backs healthy is going to be huge for them. So it should be an exciting season for both of our teams, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's just Sundays. I'm just going to be sitting in front of the TV. Just football. So it's great to have football back, because the summertime is such a dead time for a lot of sports. The NBA has got such a great off season, but it's not as exciting as when everything's going on. So
and then what I hate about those dead times, especially on Twitter, is that's when people start to nitpick because they have nothing else to talk about. So it's all right, now we're complaining about just the stupidest stuff, and then it's football season starts, Christian Wood signs with the Lakers. It's everything's good, so I'm very excited. And that first game, I guess we should quickly probably talk about too, was an awesome one. Lions Chiefs on Thursday night. So we had the Lions beat the Chiefs 21-20. Obviously, the Chiefs were not fully healthy. They had Travis Kelce out. They have Chris Jones, who's probably arguably their best defensive player, still holding out, which I imagine after this game he'll probably get paid pretty soon. But was a really good game. As a Packers fan, obviously the Lions are in the NFC North. I'm very high on them. I've said in the preseason I think they're going to win the division. I'm hoping that the Packers can sneak in the wild card. But and the one question I had about the Lions all offseason was Jared Goff. I was I love their whole team. I just don't know if Goff can turn into that 2017 Goff again. And sure enough, he looked like 2017 Goff on Thursday night. So I think they'll be good, and I think the Chiefs will obviously get healthy. And Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick Mahomes, and I'm not worried about them at all.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. And the Lions to me are also they're really a fun and interesting team. And Dan Campbell, what a character he is. And just he's just a great and fun guy to root for too. So
totally,
I understand why so many people have picked him to, and that team to be their, favorite, as the up and coming team. So a lot of people even pick that team to win that division, which that's going to be a tough task. That's a tough division. Minnesota is good as well as, and I think the Bears are going to be a lot better than a lot of people think too. I think the Commanders, they're going to be, spoilers for a lot of people as well. So, I'm just looking forward to the football season, and, this has been great. We're going to wrap this first segment up here at this point, and just, I'm just, having so much fun with this. It's been so much fun, talking with you here today, Colin, and we'll, on next segment, it will be all three of us, and, we'll continue some more hoops conversations. So everybody, peace out and stay zooted.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Peace out, guys. Until next time.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Hoops Zooted. We're back here with me and Colin. And, I did tell you, at the end of the last segment, it was going to be three of us. But, unfortunately, that has not worked out. You know, Still today, in this day and age, even though we live in legal states, I live in New Mexico, Colin lives in California, and, our other colleague here, was also in a legal state, but he, because of work, didn't feel comfortable doing this, and felt like work would, punish him if he did this with us. So anyway, we tried to like have some other workarounds to kind of see if it would work, but it didn't end up working out, and it's just one of those things now that it's just a sad kind of state of affairs still with with marijuana, is that a lot of people still have a stigma about it, and even though it's legal in a lot of states, a lot of workplaces still don't let their employees partake, which is, it's just really unfortunate. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up, but glad to have you all back, and we're gonna dive right into some Laker topics here to start with. And but before I do that, we've this day we recorded this on a different day than the first segment here. So new day. That's why you see me wearing something a little different. But today
Hurts.
I have my bubbler today with a little bit of Jacques Herrera, which is named after a famous cannabis activist. He was known as the Emperor of Hemp. So Jacques Herrera is a strain that you can get like almost anywhere. It seems like so, and it's a sativa dominant. It's about 27%, so packs a nice punch. And Jacques Herrera was also the founder of hemp, which is God, what does it stand for? It stands for Help in Marijuana Prohibition. Very simple thing. So anyway, I'm gonna take a couple of hits, and I'm gonna pass it over to Colin here and let him introduce himself before we jump into some Laker topics.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, can never go wrong with some Jacques Herrera. That's probably like arguably the most famous sativa strain out there. Obviously, because Jacques Herrera was a pioneer in the industry. But yeah, man, thanks for the intro. Happy to be back. Like Evan said, a week later, a lot has happened since we last talked. I guess I should take a step back in terms of what am I smoking today. I'm on the same agenda as I was last week, which is I just took a hero-sized dab right before this of my limoncello batter, so nice and zooted, ready to go. Which is why I just skipped a step and wanted to jump right into this Laker talk. But so yeah, let's get right into it. Our first topic today, which is kind of the biggest thing that happened since last week, is the Lakers extended Jared Vanderbilt. So it was a 4-year, I believe, $48 million extension. It doesn't kick in until after this year. He's still getting paid, I think, $4 million this year. So, Evan, what are your thoughts on the Vanderbilt extension?
Oh man, I was like, to me, it's the cherry on top of like what's been like a perfect off season. Like we now have these guys locked up, and like to me, it feels like the front office like believes like we're taking a run at 2 more chips at least with LeBron is what it feels like. So because we're locked in for these next 2 years with this roster, and I think this roster is a winning roster. So yeah, I'm excited, and I've seen a lot of people freaking out, thinking that we're overpaying him, but I really don't think we're overpaying him. I think for what he provides, defense has become at such a premium in this league just because there are so few players that really actually dedicate themselves to it. So having a defensive specialist like Vanderbilt, like just it's a great asset to have on this team. And, there's a lot of complaints about how, he's not the greatest finisher. He doesn't have the greatest offensive game, but that is kind of the trade-off you take of him being a defensive specialist. And, obviously, we have one of the best player development guys in Phil Handy that he's been in the lab with all summer long with. And, if he gets just a little bit better at finishing, and if he can shoot that three at 30 to 35%, like, I mean, that'll be like the best thing ever for us. Like, I am super happy about it. And, moving forward, like, I'm so excited about this team. And like I said, it's just the cherry on top of just what's been a absolutely perfect offseason by Rob and this entire front office. So yeah, I'm so happy, and I can't wait for the season to get started. Less than a month at this point. So
I think yesterday it was 23 days until preseason, which means today it's 22. Yeah. Everyone was posting the LeBron 23 pictures yesterday, but yeah, man, so excited. I've always been very high on Jared Vanderbilt. I got in an argument in multiple Lakers group chats that I thought his value was, this was before he signed the extension. I thought his value was going to be between the $15 and $20 million range, which a lot of people thought was absurd. But I was like, hey, listen, this kid, like Evan said, is a defensive specialist already. He can guard pretty much anyone in the league, 1 through 4. He can even guard some 5s that are smaller, depending on who it is. He's 23 years old. There's rumors that he grew 2 inches this offseason, which would make him 6'10". And so it's like, if the kid's still growing, he's 23. I think there's, like Evan said, a lot of the complaints about him are around his offensive game, which I'll admit is not the best, specifically finishing at the rim and his 3-point shot. But going back to my point, if he's 23 and still growing, this kid can totally get better at offense. And from what I've seen, he's definitely been putting in the work. We've seen the videos of him and Phil Handy, who Evan mentioned is probably one of the best offensive coaches in the league, offensive specialist coaches in the league. And so, yeah, I think, over the course of we now have him locked in for 5 years. He will definitely improve his offensive game, and I think also improve his defensive game, and hopefully become one of the best defenders in the league. And I think definitely his value will be within the 15 to 20 million range, and we'll be paying him 12. So absolute steal by Rob. I was joking that in 4 years from now, Vando and Reeves are going to be the 2 best value contracts in the league, but we'll see. So yeah, I'm excited, man. Like you said, it was the cherry on top. We just had the most perfect offseason. Everyone got signed at a contract that I believe is fair value. I don't think we're overpaying or underpaying anyone. So yeah, man, I'm excited to get started. Like I said, I think last time we were on here, I think the Lakers are going to win 60 games this year. So excited to get started.
Nice. Yeah, I love the confidence. I don't know if I'm ready yet to make a prediction on how many games we're going to win until I see us in preseason, but I am going to make predictions.
I'm not on the 60 games, but
like, yeah, I'm feeling it with the 60 games at this point. Like, so anyway, like, it also brings up another interesting topic for me with this, like, signing Vando and paying him this much. Seems to me that, like, we're going to give him a fairly big role, fair amount of playing time. And it also makes me wonder, because there's been all this talk about, playing AD back at the 4 again. And, kind of going back to the days of 2020 and, having somebody else play center for most of it. And I'm, now with the signing of Vanderbilt, I'm not so sure. Like, maybe in stretches we might be doing that, but I don't think necessarily with this lineup as it's, currently constructed, this roster, I don't think it's a good idea to have AD at the 4 that often. I think it's, AD at the 5 makes a lot more sense now with this roster, especially with the addition of Christian Wood. And so, because I don't see playing Christian Wood and Jackson Hayes exclusively at center. I think that may be an issue. Like, I could see us doing it in stretches, against certain matchups, but yeah, I don't see us doing 80 at the 5 now as often as, possibly, So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this screams, 80 is going to be starting at the 5. I was joking. There was a segment of Lakers Twitter. I can't remember if it was before the Vando extension or after, but they were like, it's tough to find minutes for Vando on this roster. And I was like joking, I'm pretty sure he's going to be in my opinion, he could be in the starting 5. So, yeah, I think the offense, I think the starting 5 for me on offense would be D'Lo at the 1, AR at the 2, Vando or LeBron at the 3, Vando at the 4, AD at the 5, and then on defense, I think they don't want LeBron guarding threes, so I think it'll be obviously D'Lo guarding the 1, AR guarding the 2, Vando guarding the 3 guard on the other team, and then that allows LeBron to be able to guard the other team's 4, which is not as athletically demanding, and then obviously AD holding it down in the paint, mostly guarding the 5. So, and obviously they're not always going to be playing man to man like that, but just generally, I think that's going to be the starting 5, and I think Vando will be seeing him a lot at the 4 on offense, and then kind of guarding a lot of threes on defense. So yeah, I have him starting just because of his defensive capabilities. And yeah, I have him at the 4. So, which means a lot of AD at the 5. I think there might be lineups like we talked about last week where we see Christian Wood and AD together, but for the most part, I think it'll be AD at the 5. But yeah, it's again, these are all good problems to have with all the depth we have. So I'm excited to see what Darvin Ham puts together, and yeah, I think there's multiple avenues towards winning with this team.
Exactly. Yeah, because I could even see Rui getting the start there.
Of course, that's the 2.
Yeah, you bring Vando in to cool somebody down, possibly. So
right.
But it also could be like Vando may need to start on certain nights to cool somebody down to start with. So
totally.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Darvin handles that, and also how the players handle it, because there's going to be only so many minutes to go around, and hopefully the winning, and I think that's the big thing. As long as they're winning, that's the ultimate deodorant.
Yep. Yeah.
As long as they're winning, there won't be any fine. But if there's a little bit of struggling, there could be some issues. But the way this team played at the end of last season, I'm really optimistic. So
yeah, same. And just the last thing about the Lakers, again, I think we talked about this last week, but the best part of all of this offseason to me is just it allows LeBron, which actually should lead us to our next point. It allows LeBron and AD to sit more, and that, in my opinion, means a lesser chance of them getting hurt, which is a higher chance of the Lakers winning if they're not hurt. So, yeah, Evan, do you want to hop into our next topic here?
Yeah, good segue there. Yeah. So the next thing is that the league has come down with a new policy about finding teams now for sitting star players, and especially for nationally televised games. And on the surface, it seems like a good idea for the fans, but I just wonder I wonder if it's kind of a slippery slope, personally. Just now obviously if someone's injured, but I just wonder if there may be times where somebody even fakes an injury just because they want to rest somebody, or just injuries are getting misreported because of this. So I'm not sure about that, but like, but it does seem like a good idea on the surface. And you know, one of the interesting things that we got off right away was that there's going to be exceptions for anybody 35 and older. So LeBron, we cannot, like, I guess
This
something
man,
we can
right?
set up. Yeah, we can set up a schedule. We can set up a schedule, I guess, to give the league and say, this is when we're going to rest him, kind of thing. And so, yeah, like, so anybody who's over 35 kind of, gets exempt out of it. And as well as, I guess, the qualifications is you have to have been in the All-Star game or on the All NBA team in the past 3 years. So,
The
so that's,
definition of star,
yeah.
yeah.
So like, I've seen, some fans like arguing that, I guess that means AD's not because he's been injured and hasn't been on these
Yeah.
past few years. So yeah, I mean, that's also interesting because you know, like I would argue that AD is a star player, and whether or not he's made those teams, like I mean, I understand you have to have a qualification somewhere, but like, yeah, where do we draw the line on that? And it's going to be interesting to see how this all happens, and like the other thing that to me, like the first team that I thought of, and I think everybody thought of, was the Clippers.
Of course.
Like like Kawhi and that knee and that degenerative, almost bone on bone situation he's got going on. Like you know, yeah, because that's the other thing is I don't want to see them like pushing Kawhi. Like I feel like the Clippers, they did that last season. They pushed him in that game against us late in the season just so they could win that game, and then he was fried for the rest of the season.
Oh, he played, I think, like 45
Yeah.
minutes that game. That was insane. I don't think I remember he played the entire second half. I remember that. But, anyways, go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, I just, like, shout out to Clippers fans, like, dropping dimes, especially like,
Yeah.
you know, oh man, like I feel for you guys. That's rough, man. Like, because you guys probably are the first ones that are gonna get fined. So anyway, what do you think about all that?
Yeah, I think to me the biggest thing is, and I need to read, I haven't read the exact rule yet, how it's going to work, but you brought it up early, is how it's going to play with injuries. Because as Laker fans, I joke because LeBron James, he's been on the injury report, I think since he came to LA. So like, they always have him as questionable whether he's hurt or not, just because he's older or whatever, may need a game off. So I'm wondering if like if you're technically on the injury list, if then if the resting rule doesn't apply to you, because if that's the case, like Evan said, I think we're going to see a lot of uh oh, he's out with illness, or questionable with an illness or whatever, just so they can avoid having to deal with that rule. But hopefully it does lead to more star players playing, because I do feel for, like I actually live in Southern California, and I've been fortunate to go to a few Lakers games, and luckily all the Lakers games I've been to, LeBron has played. There's a few that AD has missed, but if I paid money, which Lakers tickets are not cheap, if I paid money to go to one of those games and both LeBron and AD didn't play, I would be upset, and I would not. I'd want a refund, like a partial refund or something, So hopefully it does lead to more stars playing, but the point I just made earlier is, I'm hoping LeBron and AD can rest a lot this season. So there's going to be trade-offs, and I'm interested to see how it plays with the injury report. But yeah, I like what the NBA is trying to do.
Yeah, like you said, those tickets are expensive. They are
Yeah,
really expensive. So
yeah,
so I get it. I get it from that standpoint.
right.
Everything like that. But also as a Laker fan who's had his stars injured for the past couple seasons, like
Right,
I just wonder about the viability of this, and like
right.
like where's the line going to be drawn and all that. Just So yeah, it's going to be interesting, and but I think it's a well-meaning rule. Like they're trying to do the right thing for fans.
Right.
So
Right.
we'll see how it works out. Like,
Yep. Yeah, I think it's going to get pretty gray pretty quickly, but we'll see. So yeah.
exactly. So um, so our next topic, actually, gonna pull away from basketball a little bit. This is um, podcast about basketball and weed, but this is a topic that's still sports related, but it's also weed related. And so Ricky Williams has come out and he suggested that the NFL should have marijuana readily available, for trainers and medical staff there as something that they can just give directly to players. And I think this is a brilliant idea. And, I think it's, the main thing to I want to remind people about here is that it's health should be a multifaceted approach. And, marijuana should be available not just because it works, but it works for some people. It doesn't work for everybody, but it should be available because, health, you should have different choices on how to deal with things, because we know the bad effects of opioids, and we also know that, like, if you use them responsible, they can also be helpful, so you know it's a multifaceted approach, and I think this is brilliant what Ricky Williams is doing. And I think that all sports, in fact, should try and incorporate something like this. But we do have this complication. I see, with all the states where it's not legal. So that's where you run into, like, probably the biggest problems. So, like, you can do all this stuff in California, or Arizona, or Nevada, but, like, you can't do it in, say, like, Georgia, or I don't know if it's legalized in Georgia, but, like, other
Georgia,
places in the South.
Alabama, places like that.
Alabama.
Yeah. Louisiana,
So
I think. So, anyways.
yeah, like, so yeah, that becomes a big complicated mess also. But, like, what these football players especially put themselves through, from week to week, like, like, having them hooked on opioids is such a terrible, terrible thing. And this is something that can, like, alleviate that and, like, give them a much better alternative, in the long run. So, and, possibly even help them, mental health wise, as opposed to the opioids. So I think it's a great idea, and I think all leagues should be doing it. And go Ricky Williams. He's always been on the cutting edge of things, man. I've loved Ricky, man. So, what do you think, man?
Yeah, man, totally agree. First off, shout out to Ricky. For any of you guys, or for all the listeners, there's a really good ESPN 30 for 30 documentary on Ricky Williams and kind of his cannabis use and his cannabis history. I forget what it's called, but just Google Ricky Williams 30 for 30. Everyone should check it out. And yeah, just completely agree. I live in California, and here there's obviously cannabis is legal. And one of the big agendas that the legal cannabis industry is pushing is plants over pills. And so I think that's a really good example of how this rule could be used in the NFL. Like Evan mentioned, and I think I talked about it last week. I'm a huge Packers fan. Aaron Rodgers, one of my favorite players ever, and he came out openly on a podcast last year saying that oh yeah, Percocets and opioids are just widely available to any NFL player. All the medical staff have them. It's not like to a normal human where you have to actually get a prescription. These guys just have it in their cabinets in the medical staff. And he's like, yeah, it's rampant. Everyone uses it, even if you have a slight injury. Oh, just take some pain pills. And he admitted to using them early on in his career and having trouble with it, having addictions with it. And now he's kind of obviously everyone jokes about Aaron Rodgers and his whole ayahuasca stuff, and he's gone pretty extreme on the plant medicine side. But he's, obviously his argument is, hey, marijuana can be used as an alternative to a lot of these opioids, and to give you the same pain relief without all the side effects that these man-made pills give you. So I think it's a great idea. I think, yeah, the like Evan said, the biggest struggle is it's not legal in every state. So I think they should just start with having it available to the states it's legal in. Hopefully that'll put pressure on the states that's not legal to legalize it and get their shit together. But and even if they don't make it a rule, it should really be legal. Like in California, they should just be able to do it anyways because it's legal here. So, yeah, like I know in the NBA, they've completely gotten rid of the rule. I know, which is great. And yeah, I just think plants over pills always, and it would be a great, shout out to Ricky Williams for leading the charge, and and hopefully he can kind of help implement this rule.
Oh heck yeah, yeah. Like again, like you said, shout out to Ricky Williams. He's the greatest, man. So anyway, and like,
familiar with how good he was as a running back, please
yes,
Google Ricky Williams college highlights and early highlights with the Saints. One of the most talented running backs of all time. So who gets forgotten for a lot of reasons we don't need to go into. But
and even his time with Miami, he was
yeah,
still
forgot about with the Dolphins too.
Yes, like love Ricky. So
yeah.
So anyway, in typical stoner fashion here, like I skipped over one of our topics.
I noticed that, and I didn't want to point it out, but I was
hey, no worries. So we're gonna jump back here to basketball. Hey, it's hoops zooted, man.
That's right.
Living up to our name. So anyway, to go back to basketball and the whole thing with the star players, like on the follow up with that, we got Team USA not even getting a bronze medal in FIBA, and a couple days later, LeBron comes out and puts a tweet out that's basically like he's assembling the Avengers here for the Olympics next year. So we're gonna get LeBron, we're gonna get Steph, we're gonna get KD, we're gonna get everybody, a team for the Olympics next year. So I'm excited for one, but the other side of me, as a Laker fan, I'm kind of just well, wait, let's win the chip first, and
for sure.
Just because just being a little selfish there, but it is kind of cool to think about, and it'd be fun, to have the A team there, in the Olympics again, because we should crush them. Even our C team, I feel like we still should have beat them. Not even medaling is really, it was really disgraceful in my opinion. So I'm just curious what your thoughts.
Totally agree. It's so funny that all it took was a little bit of disrespect on American basketball. I forget what I forget that runner's name who made the comment about how America's not the most talented country at basketball anymore, and obviously that set a lot of players off. So there was multiple things. I think it's kind of a domino effect here that led to LeBron and a lot of these guys putting their foot down, saying, "Hold on, wait a minute. Let's not forget who the best country here is here." So hey, I'm excited, and from a Lakers standpoint, yes, it worries me, but the great part is the Olympics is going to be after the NBA season. So no matter what, Lakers comes first. It's not like LeBron could get hurt playing in obviously he could get hurt playing in the Olympics, and obviously that would affect the following season. But for this season, like, he's good. The Olympics aren't going to affect him. But the one thing I was joking about is, yeah, so they've kind of, to mention all of the players, Evan mentioned a few, but it's the sort of, I guess, confirmed names that he's assembled. It's LeBron, Steph Curry, Devin Booker, Anthony Davis. Who am I missing, Evan? Kevin Durant. You said Kevin Durant.
KD, yeah, KD,
Uh,
yes,
I think Anthony Edwards will obviously continue to play with them. But what I'm really curious about is, and I'm hoping, Le GM steps in and gets, our boy Austin Reeves here, lets
yes,
him lets him stay on the team, especially after how well he played in the FIBA this year. And I think in the Olympics you get 15 spots, which is quite a big roster. So I'm hoping Reeves can stay. And what I'm ultimately hoping is that Reeves and AD can start to build some friendships with some of these all-star players to plant some seeds for when LeBron ultimately sails into the sunset and retires. And potentially we bring in our replacement for him to the Lakers. So cough cough. Anthony Edwards, Mike Bridges. But yeah, so I'm excited. Obviously, I was the last sort of dream team we saw. Well, I did, of course, see the Redeem team in '08, and then the 2012 team, which both dominated. But the true dream team in '92 was actually the year before I was born, and I've seen tons of highlights of it, but never got to see it live. So would love to see a dream team live next summer in Paris. And Paris is a super cool city, so would be a great place for Team USA to kind of remind everyone, hey, settle down. Dennis Schroeder in Germany aren't truly the best, even though we love Dennis. But yeah, and I'm also interested to see, because I remember actually the last Olympics, which was 2020, or I think they did it in 2021 because of COVID. And Kevin Durant played on that team. They won the gold medal. But before that Olympics, like before the NBA season, LeBron had actually said he was going to play on that team, and there was a bunch of other players that committed too. And then they went through injuries that season, and the only one that actually went through with it was Kevin Durant. So I'm interested to see, of all these committed players, if any of them, whatever, get hurt or something happens in the NBA season, maybe they drop out. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. But yeah, would love to see our best roster out there, and would love to see Team USA win a easy gold.
yeah. And Steph's never been on an Olympic team. It'd be great to have him out there finally.
Yeah, for sure. Would love to see that. Oh, and Tatum was another guy that was mentioned.
Yes, yeah,
So
Tatum.
yeah, it'll be good to see those guys.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, we bring that. Yeah, we're beating people by 30, 40.
Yeah. It's not. It doesn't matter who's coaching. It doesn't matter. You can't go wrong with that roster.
Exactly. That should be an easy goal. So anyway, so we're gonna move on now, and we're gonna move on to a fun little segment that I like to call historical stoner circle. So anyway, it's basically I'm going to give Colin here, and I'll follow up with my answer afterwards. But I'm going to give Colin here a historical figure, and he's going to tell me whether he would smoke with them or not. Gas or pass. So we're going to start off here with Julius Caesar.
All right, so this one, I think I'm gonna go. And this might be this might not be the best opinion, but I think I'm gonna go with pass here, and that's mainly because I've watched the movie Gladiator so many times, and what's his face, Joaquin Phoenix's impression of Julius Caesar is just so obnoxious that I'm just like, I wouldn't want to smoke with that guy. He seems just like a total douchebag, even though very famous, historical, very important historical figure. No disrespect to Julius Caesar, but think I'm gonna go with pass. What about you, Evan? Gas or pass?
I'm gonna go with gas on this one. Like,
All right, all
you know,
right.
I would be interested. I would like to talk to him about like military things and just also a little bit about Cleopatra. Talk to me about that.
Yep, yep.
So so yeah, I would go with gas. Because I would think I would think he'd be an interesting conversation. And I would also I'd have to get better at my Latin. I took Latin in high school, so like I know a little bit, but like
The lost language, yes.
Veni Vidi Vici, So anyway, um, yeah, I would gas there with Julius Caesar. So anyway, well, second guy that go to is go to a little bit of basketball history and the inventor of basketball, Dr. James Naismith. Would
Yes.
you gas or pass with Dr. James Naismith,
Oh,
man
this
who
is
put a peach basket up and created basketball?
yes. So this is a for sure gas for me. So being from, I think I mentioned in part one of this pod, I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. Was born and raised there. So Dr. James Naismith was the head coach at Kansas for University of Kansas. I can't remember where he played, but I know he played somewhere, and he was the head coach at Kansas for a long time. And in pretty much all of the Midwest region of America, Kansas basketball rules Kansas and Indiana basketball are the two college basketball teams that kind of rule Midwest college hoops. So specifically, most people in Missouri are huge KU basketball fans. I was one of them. Rock Chalk Jayhawk. A bunch of my buddies went to Kansas. Um, so yeah, I would love to gas with Dr. James Naismith. Ask him about coaching at Kansas. Ask him about just being one of the inventors and pioneers of the game. Just being a basketball nerd, would have so many basketball questions to ask him. Um, and then I believe is it the top college basketball award, Evan? That's the Naismith Award, or he's one of the famous awards he's named after, and I think it's the
Yep,
top college player each year in
yep.
college basketball gets the Naismith Award. So would be curious to ask what he thinks about certain people that have won that award and if they were worthy or not. So for sure, gas, and just shout out to Dr. James Naismith, one of the pioneers of the games, and one of the reasons we're here today talking about basketball. What about you, Evan? Gas or pass?
Totally. Like, yeah, I'm with you on this one. Like, yeah, I'm definitely gas on this one. It's like I would want to sit him down and like show him like video of like this is what your game has become, like
Yes.
like after we're good and high, like
Look at what Steph Curry has done. Just kidding. Just kidding.
but yeah, just like show him like and just show him like even the evolution of the game, like from go from like 60s 70s 80s, like all the way up, and just like that, and to just be fun, like you said, to talk to about all kinds of things, and like and just and the first thing I would ask him is just like like what do you think about what has happened to this simple little game you created,
Totally. Totally.
so yeah, so definitely gas on that. And
Also
then
would have to have a goat conversation with him. Would have to have a goat. Show him, like Evan said, show him film of the last 100 years of basketball. Get him caught up, and then have a quick goat conversation with him.
yeah, he'd be swearing it's some guy that like used to play with him, and like
Yeah, some guy we don't know. Yeah.
That'd be great. So, and then last one, we're just gonna have some fun with, like not everybody will know this guy, but like he was an important guy in my childhood. Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yes.
So would you pass or gas with
For
the great
sure.
Jim Duggan.
For sure, gas. I'm going to let you do most of the talking about it this one, Evan, because I know you're a big wrestling guy. Full transparency, I'm not. That's one of the sports that I'm not super well versed in. But, love, that's no shot at wrestling. I just haven't really had the time to, to get into it. But still think it's super cool and would love to smoke with any pro wrestler and ask them all sorts of stuff. And was he a WWE wrestler, or what type of wrestler was he again?
Yeah, back when it was still WWF.
Okay, so would love to ask him questions about kind of because I've always had questions of when it comes to WWF, WWE, that type of wrestling, what it's like, because I know some of it's, quote unquote fake, but I also know that those guys are putting their bodies through hell. So would love to ask him about that. And actually, I just saw right before this, Evan, Netflix just released a documentary called Wrestlers. That's actually, I think they followed. I haven't watched it yet, but it's getting really good reviews, and they followed some pro wrestlers. I forget what the league was. It was like OVW maybe. And they follow them, and it's like a 6-episode docu-series where they follow these pro wrestlers, and apparently it's like a really good look into pro wrestling today. So I'm definitely going to check that out. But really curious to hear your thoughts on this, because you're the wrestling guy. So why don't you give us a little bit of background about this guy, and then also would you gas or pass with him?
Yeah, well, definitely gas. And like, to clarify, like I'm not a big wrestling guy, but like 80s wrestling, the Hulk Hogan era, like I was all in, 10 toes down back then. Like I loved, like, yeah, I knew it was fake, but like I've always just appreciated, like, what these guys, like, put their bodies through. And like, yeah, it was pretty incredible. And and just also the acting aspect to it was also funny to me. And Hacksaw was just hilarious, just like the faces he would make, and just like, he was just so over the top, and just so fun and funny to watch. And just like, I loved that whole era of wrestling. So like, yeah, and I would love to be able to talk to him about, like, just what, other wrestlers were like, and just, especially some of the parties that they had, and, just, yeah. So definitely gas. And like, yeah, I would have a great time with Hacksaw.
Sounds like Evan's willing to gas with pretty much everyone. He's
I'm easy.
3 this week, so that's funny. But yeah, we're gonna be hopefully doing this historical stoner circle every single week. So it'll be interesting to see what we come up with here.
Yeah. So anyway, now we're going to move on to a little more football. Like both of our teams got a win on Sunday. So yes, we're still in the happy side here. Like, don't have to be like the poor Minnesota Vikings.
That's right.
Be considered the worst team in the league for like a short period of time.
That's right. Only one team in the league with 2 losses as of this recording on Saturday.
So yeah, so it's been fun. And like, I'm really happy to be a Ravens fan. Like, like Lamar didn't play that well, like, but he had flashes. And a lot of people told me over the years that, like, I've never seen him throw an accurate pass. And like, I'll admit that he's not consistent with his accuracy, but oh my God, like, he can absolutely be accuracy. Like, he threw like this beautiful dart to Odell late in that game. That was just, yeah, it was wonderful. So like, yeah, I'm happy. And like, that team is fun to watch, and, go Ravens.
And for the listeners, Evan, remind us, who did you guys play again? The Ravens?
Oh shoot! Now you put me on the spot.
Never mind. We'll look it up. It's all good. But Ravens got the W. Yeah, and like Evan said, for anyone who tries to say Lamar's a running back or not a quarterback, total BS. This guy was the MVP of the league. You can't be the MVP of the league without being an accurate passer. So he's an electrifying runner. Yeah, Ravens got the W. The one thing I will say, J.K. Dobbins went down, which
Yes.
is
Oh,
a
yes.
huge bummer. But I guess if any team's gonna have their starting running back go down, the Ravens are probably the most well equipped to handle it because they've got Lamar as a runner, and then they've also got two other running backs. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and it was the Texans they just beat. You put me on the spot there.
Sorry. Hey, that's what happens when you're zooted. That's what happens for all the listeners.
Exactly.
You know?
So yeah, I remember Texans.
All right. Well, yeah. So moving on to my team, the Packers. I'm over the moon excited. Obviously, I predicted a win, but I predicted a close win. I did not expect us to score almost 40 points. I think we beat the Bears 38-20. And that 20 points was, I think 14 of those were in garbage time. So, oh my God, it was just all three phases of the game. The Packers looked incredible. I think I said on part one of this podcast, we've got a top 5 O-line and a top 5 defense. Most people agreed that going into the season that the Packers had a top 5 O-line. Not most people agreed that we had a top 5 defense. So our defense showed out, got a pick 6. Quay Walker, who was our first round pick linebacker out of Georgia last year, had an incredible pick 6 where he ran it back like 40 yards and trucked some poor Bears running back into, eternity. And Jordan Love, that was my biggest question, is how would Jordan Love play? I think he has, had a 75% passer or completion rating or completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, highest passer rating in the league right now. Obviously, it's only 1 week, so not a lot of data, but and I think he's ranked, when I checked, number 3 overall quarterback in fantasy football. So if you can't tell, I'm very excited about the Packers, and we're playing the Vikings this week, tomorrow, as of this recording. Or I'm sorry, not the Vikings. I've got the Vikings in my head. The Falcons. We're playing the Falcons this week. And which is a team that, they won week 1, but their quarterback Desmond Ridder had like 115 passing yards or something. And I know this actually leads us to our next topic, but Evan and I are in a fantasy football league together, and he's got Drake London on his team, and he had no receptions, no yards, nothing last week. So I'm hoping that happens, not for Evan's sake, but for my Packers' sake. I'm hoping that happens again this week, and my Packers roll over the Falcons. So, and so leading to fantasy football, Evan and I actually played each other this week, and I got the W. I had one of those. My team had one of those weeks where like pretty much everyone played perfectly. It would have. I think I put up the most points in of anyone in our 12-man league. It's like 165 points. So Evan actually did have a great week. What'd you put up, Evan? Like 120 or 130? Like you would have probably
just short of 120. But yeah, you mollywopped me, man.
Like, yeah, it was one of those.
Week 1 out the gate, just wow.
All the stars were aligned. I will not put up that many points this week, but shout out to a couple big names. Brandon Ayuk did most of the damage with 2. I think he had 2 TDs, like almost 30 fantasy points in our PPR league.
I swear Brock Purdy and Brandon Ayuk will never do that again. Damn it. Like, I swear to God, it'll never happen again. It's like it just had to happen this 1 week.
That leads us to a good point. So all off season, I was questioning the Niners quarterback situation. I was questioning Brock Purdy specifically because he had Tommy John surgery. I think I mentioned on part one, I had that surgery myself growing up. Very tough, very tough surgery to recover from.
Yeah.
Uh, so I was very questionable on how he would. I loved how he played last year before he got hurt, Brock Purdy, but I was very questioning how he would recover from that Tommy John. It was on his throwing
Yeah.
arm. And I was like, look, guys, he's not going to be the same, but I'll give it to him. He looked great. Um, and I got to disagree. I think I got to disagree with Evan. I think he might. Some of the throws he made looked really good. I think he might. If he if I think he might continue to do that. We'll see. I
Yeah.
hope
See,
he
that's
doesn't, because the Niners have been the Packers' kryptonite for the past 5 years. So if he plays badly, that's totally fine with me. But he looked damn good week one. So but back to the fantasy matchup. So I had Ayuk. I had, like I said, I was drafted my Packers D. They had that defensive touchdown. That was huge. And I think like Michael Pittman had a big game. So anyways, Evan, what were some of the guys that played well for you?
um yeah, I did have Christian McCaffrey, of
Okay,
course,
right. Can't go
right,
wrong with him.
number one pick, my bell cow back, the last bell cow back in the NFL, it seems. Yeah,
Yep.
did well for me. And like everybody else, like, gave me a pretty solid performance, other than Drake London, who gave me
Right.
zero. So like, yeah, I still like, I still would have beat, about half the league, but that's the way fantasy works. It's just, matchup dependent, and
Yep.
sometimes it's just not your week, and like, just wasn't my week last week. And
Yeah.
my comment about Purdy and Ayuk was more about, it's just one of those like fantasy flukes that, like,
Right.
you don't see, like, repeat itself,
Right.
so
You don't see the number two receiver on a team
but of
completely
course
go
it happens
off.
on my week.
Right. I would have much more expected that from Debo Samuel, given the data that we have on the Niners
Yeah,
receivers. But yeah, it was funny that
exactly.
and I
Yeah,
almost, I
totally
forget
spread
who
out.
I almost benched him before we started. I can't remember who it was between, but I was deciding between him and another guy at receiver. So obviously happy I played Ayuk, but moving on to one last topic. I know we're trying to wrap this up, but just want to do a quick shout out back to Lakers basketball, in a sense, to quick shout out to the show Winning Time. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but uh, show Winning Time on HBO right now. It's based off a book by the great Jeff Pearlman called Showtime. It's about the Lakers dynasty in the 80s. And specifically about the Lakers Celtics rivalry and all the NBA finals that kind of, Magic and Bird kind of headlined. So we're finishing up season 2 of Winning Time right now. So we just got to the 1983. Is it the 1983 finals, Evan, against the
84.
Celtics? 84 finals, yes. So the we just finished this. They just premiered the second to last episode of this season 2, which basically ends with that NBA finals starting in 1984. So hopefully the finale will show the finals, which we know what happens. We're not even going to talk about that. But yeah, just want to talk about the show real quickly. I know, Evan, you've read the book Showtime. I've read it too. Shout out to Jeff Pearlman, incredible writer. I've read almost all his books at this point. And yeah, I know he's been kind of going on a lot of podcasts trying to promote the show, because given the current writers' strike, a lot of the actors right now that are on the show are striking and don't have the ability to kind of promote it. So what are your thoughts on kind of season 1 and season 2 and the progression of the show, and yeah, just what are your thoughts on Winning Time, Evan?
Oh, like, I absolutely love this show. Like, yeah, I love Jeff Pearlman's book to begin with. Like,
Yep.
because I've read 3 of his books. He's written that. He wrote also a Three Ring Circus, which is about Kobe and Shaq,
Yep.
which is
It's a
also
follow
a
up.
great
Yep.
great book. And there's like whispers of that possibly, if Winning Time is more successful, that could possibly be a series too. But like, if Winning Time doesn't get enough viewers, that's never going to be a series, unfortunately.
Right.
And then I also read his book on the '90s Cowboys, which was also really good. So
Nice.
yeah, Jeff is a great author, and like, just a lot of good fun stuff in all three books. And Winning Time is just great. Like, yeah, there are a lot of liberties that are taken, but they get most of the main, like, the main important parts like right. So like, the little liberties don't bother me as much. And like, yeah, I've been enjoying like every bit of it. Like, all the actors are great. The guy who plays Jerry West, Jason Clark, is
Incredible.
great. Yeah, I mean,
Incredible.
and
Hilarious.
just exactly great, funny, well written scenes for him too. That like, yeah, just like, and that is Jerry in a lot of ways. Like, he is a little like, prickly and cantankerous like that. Like, but
Totally.
but yeah, so it's just a lot of fun. And Adrian Brody,
Oh man.
Pat Riley, like, when
Yeah.
that was first cast, I was doubtful. I was like, I don't see this. I'm not sure. Like,
Oh,
but
it is so
oh
good.
yeah, I mean, he has just nailed it. And like, from season 1 to season 2, he's gotten better.
Oh, the
And yeah,
character arc with him.
yeah, I'm just sad that there's only 7, episodes this season. So we get the
Right.
finale this Sunday.
I know.
So,
Yeah, we'll have
you
to
know,
circle up after that.
yeah, like, but I'm gonna, yeah, like, I've already rewatched, season 1. I'm sure I'll rewatch season 2. So like, yeah, I love this show.
Yeah, a couple more thoughts for me. Yeah, cannot say enough about Jason Clark, the guy who plays Jerry West. He got a lot of heat in season 1, and even myself, I was like, when I first watched season 1, I was like, man, this is kind of like, this is kind of harsh, impression of Jerry West. And then, of course, it came out that Jerry West like demanded that they take the show off air. This is during season 1. This was last year. This is all since fizzled out. But after rewatching season 1 and now season 2, and actually, I listened to a podcast with Jeff Pearlman, and he said, "Hey, actually, all that came from is if you read the book West by West, which is it's in my queue of books right now. I've already purchased it, but haven't gotten to reading it. But it's basically Jerry West's autobiography on himself, and all those like little character, him being stressed and anxious and just overall a little bit cuckoo, like that came from his book West by West. That wasn't like, that wasn't just made up. That didn't come out of nowhere. So of course Hollywood's going to exaggerate a little bit, but man, this guy Jason Clark is so funny. And just like some of the scenes where like he's trying to get a trade done, and either Riley or Westhead shoots it down, and he just like loses it. It's just so, and it also just him watching him watching the game. Jerry West watching the games, like that's
Yes.
almost a representation of us as fans. Like,
Yeah.
you're just so on edge. You're just like, living and dying with every play. So shout out to Jason Clark. And then, yeah, like Evan said, shout out to Adrian Brody. The job they've done with his character arc. Just not to spoil it for the listeners, but just, a quick background. So in season 1, they basically have him starting, he started out as the assistant announcer with Chuck Hearn before the Lakers hired him.
Yeah.
He's
And they
got
had to
this.
fudge the timeline a little bit with that, because that happened
Yeah,
a
so
few years ago.
obviously he played for the Lakers. He was the shooting guard with Jerry West while they were, won a championship as a player with the Lakers. Then was when the show starts, he's kind of he finds himself in this weird like spot post retirement looking for work. He ends up taking a job with, being the Chick Hearn's kind of right hand man broadcasting games. But it's funny because he's got this shaggy hair at the beginning of in the season one, like, isn't the slick Pat Riley that we all know and love. And so to see that character arc over the course of season one to season two, to see him slowly, go to the slick back hair and the Armani suits and just his confidence level increasing each game. And like during practice, he's now wearing like the velour track suits, and smoking cigarettes. Now he's constantly smoking cigs. Like, just the level of detail they've gone into with his character arc. That's like kind of the stuff that I nerd out for on shows. So to combine the Lakers and just great TV has been awesome for me. So to all the listeners, please, I know HBO Go, HBO Max, I don't know what it costs. I know it's a little bit, you got to pay for it, but please, if you're not, pay for HBO, watch the show. I know that they're struggling right now for watchers and viewers, so they're trying to promote the show so they can continue on. So if you're not watching it, please, check it out. It's one of the best shows on TV. If you're a Lakers fan, you'll love it. But yeah, season finale this Sunday, and we'll definitely have to circle up next week, Evan, on after the finale, which I think we know what's going to happen. And like I said, we're not going to talk about it.
Exactly. Yeah. Definitely not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, this has been a lot of fun. So great that so. We're going to sign off here now, and, everybody, stay zooted and peace out.
Peace out, guys.